All right, now that we have everyone here, I'm going to start off with a pretty deep question, and I'm actually going to gear this first to Angela. First question is going to be, how can new demand response programs and cost segregation opportunities be leveraged by mining organization? Yeah, it's a
Yes, great. Thank you. Good question. First of all, demand response today, especially starting in January, is not what you may have thought about it as a miner in the past. Certain ISOs, particularly like ERCOT, have actually brought 5 different new opportunities to where they will pay you to shut down. And that's an average of $250,000 per megawatt annually. And it's not all or nothing. It literally is, if you can participate, you can, and they do not penalize you if you do not participate. So for me, that's very exciting to be able to go out to different miners and say, look, there's some opportunities here to make additional revenue for demand response instead of getting penalized for not joining in. Now you have an opportunity to actually make additional revenue. And there's certain companies that actually can get you into those different organizations or those different demand responses that are applicable to where you are in your mining situation, let you know exactly where you need to be, that have software that they can include to actually help you shut down when you need to shut down. So it's not a scary thing. And so for me, that's one of the most exciting things I've learned since the beginning of this year is that different things like ISOs, like SPP, especially ERCOT, that will literally pay you money to shut down and not penalize you if you don't. So to me, that's one of the most exciting things. And also what I've learned is me being in tax incentive space in the federal section for over 10 years, cost segregation is one area that I learned that miners just don't really know a whole lot about. And what that is the federal government allows you to accelerate depreciation of certain assets that you have from 5-year, 7-year, 15, 39-year, whatever that straight line would be, with bonus depreciation and take it all in year one. And what that sounds like monetarily is $30,000 to $100,000 in federal income tax savings for every $1 million that you have in assets. So that's something that I'm really trying to get out there to the mining industry, because a lot of people don't know about that. And all it takes is an engineering study and looking at your depreciation schedule and see what that looks like. So for me, those are 2 things that I really feel like that I'd like the miners to know from this.
Thank you so much. And yes, Christine, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yes. We work in Texas. Thank you, Angela, for bringing that out. Just to take people a step back about what demand response is. The miners are uniquely capable of shutting off their production at any time, unlike any other manufacturing industry out there, because they can turn it off in seconds. They can get it back on very quickly, 23 minutes. And so different power grids are different around the country, but Texas is a deregulated grid. So what that means is it is free market. So the price for power is changing all the time. And so currently we're actually working on getting incentivization for the miners. Right now, they're not paid by taxpayers to shut off, but there are different ways that they are incentivized. For instance, if you're a miner and you've got a power purchase agreement and you're buying power at a certain price, well, supply and demand is what dictates price of anything. And so when there's a great need for power, the price goes up. And so the miners then can turn off their power and then they can sell back to the grid because they got it at a cheaper price and then they're able to sell it back. But we're working on ways to incentivize them a little more. We've created a category in Texas called large flexible loads, and we've got a large flexible load task force that we're working with ERCOT. It's mostly Bitcoin miners, but it's theoretically there's other production that could participate in it. And so we're working. That's one of the bills that we have in front of the Texas legislator this session, is to give a little incentive to participate in that. But just a few statistics. Back during that original winter storm where a lot of people died, that was before a lot of the miners came to Texas. But then this last winter around Christmas, when the storm came in and the price of power spiked up, 96% of our miners came offline. And so we did not go out of power because the whole community just powered down.
Can I also add,
of
aside
course.
from a tax savings that you can get from cost segregation, which is what Angela was talking about, there are also states that offer various other tax incentives. For example, they offer rebates on sales tax, whether it's on sales tax on energy consumption because you're investing money into that state into mining, or also some of the states are working on bills to give back to give other credits based on how much money you're investing in infrastructure, or to forgive sales tax or exempt it on the equipment that you're putting to use in that state.
Thank you so much. So I don't know, Elijah, if you wanted to tap into this. No? Or?
Well, the only thing would add, and actually, just kind of a ducktail and kudos, is that yes, there are a number of different financial tax incentives, but there's others that affect the bottom line that local governments have more leeway over than tax incentives, and that's actually something that we've been exploring. South Florida is home to one of the largest miner operations, and Bit5. And we've been working very closely with the county government to see, as a business, as an actual local leader, how we can support them. But then, working to get consultation of what the actual environmental impact may be on the proliferation of their products locally. And we're really trying to see about the energy, because it's really about the energy cost as well at the end of the day, for now, until the price goes up. But so.
All right, thank you so much. And the next question is, how can energy policy be used to incentivize the development of more energy efficient infrastructures? Anyone could start with this one. Christine?
The thing that really incentivizes is the cost of power, to be honest. And there are a lot of incentives already to develop renewable infrastructure. And so that does enable some of the cost to come down for the miners that are using that power. But again, for the case of Texas, wind and solar are intermittent power sources. And so in Texas, we have a lot of wind and we have a lot of sun. And our grid actually has, apart from California, we have the most renewables of any of the grids. I think we've got 18 times more than Massachusetts. So we've got a lot of wind and we've got a lot of solar, and we're deregulated. So that means that the price of power matches supply and demand. And so what we see is when the sun is shining, we have an abundant source of power that cannot be used. We cannot get it where it needs to go quick enough. And so it ends up bringing the cost of power negative. So it's costing those companies money to be producing the power because there's nobody to buy it. But then during times of emergency or during times when the sun is not shining, then sometimes there's a need for what's called the power sources that are always there. And so what the Bitcoin mining does to incentivize renewables, it's not a top-down incentivization structure with policy, but it's just pricing. So they become the buyers of last resort. And the effect is, because you have someone there planted next to you, your solar farm, buying power when nobody else wants it, and then giving power back to the grid when it's needed by the grid, it enables more and more renewables to be created. So it's not an exact answer to your question. It's not a policy that incentivizes, but because there's already policies incentivizing, the Bitcoin miners make it possible to continue and to build out the infrastructure.
Oh, yeah. And you mentioned that if there's no sunshine, let's say there's no wind, what happens? This is just from my knowledge.
You've got to move back to fossil fuels. I mean, that's in Texas. So when we had the winter storm, the wind froze, the windmills froze from the ice, and the sun was not shining. And so then you have to go back to dispatchable is the word that I was looking for. So now nuclear would be an option that is carbon neutral, but nuclear is not very much built out right now. So it's going to be another 10 years to build that out. So that's just something that people don't realize when we're talking about wind and solar. We have to realize that there's this thing called the duck curve, where when the sun is down, there's not enough that's developed, and there's no way to really change that. You can't change the course of the sun, and so you have to be able to supplement that at this point until we find a way. And nuclear is one option, but to make it more dispatchable so that it is available when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to know that for me.
Yeah.
What I would love to add is that obviously there's, regulatory policy, and then there's also tax policy, right? And so states can definitely be working on tax policies that promote the use of energy efficient equipment, right? So just like when we're remodeling our homes, right? If you're using like more insulated windows, your tax person says, "Oh, what kind of windows do you use? Are they like Energy Star certified, right? Or the air conditioners that you put in," and you get tax breaks for that. So the same sort of policies can be made for this industry, but it is state specific, so we have to wait for states to do that.
Yeah, to piggyback on what she just said, there actually is a federal incentive that a lot of miners don't know about as well. And you can get up to $5 per square foot for being energy efficient. And that means your building envelope, your HVAC or your boiler type of thing, if you have anything like that, if you have a building, or your switchgear and things like that, they will literally give you up to $5 per square foot if you can actually come up with those different things. So that's actually already out there, and that's one thing that miners aren't aware of as well. So as far as going as incentivize them to be energy efficient, that's something that's already there, and it's pretty significant.
And what's like the typical price in terms of there's $5, and then what are the ranges for the prices per square foot?
No, if $5 is the most that you can get, but it scales down. It used to be $1.88 per square foot, and it just changed this year to $5. And so it's very scalable, and it used to be per each of those three sectors. Now it's all combined. As long as you can get 50% more of the ASHRAE standard to be over 50%, then you can get all of it. It would be $5 per square foot. And I know some of these facilities are pretty significantly large, so that would be a huge deduction for your federal taxes.
And Angela, just to clarify, that is not something that's meant for crypto miners specifically that was made for them. This has existed for other industries.
This has existed, yes. This has existed that most miners are not aware of. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring to the attention of a lot of the miners are these federal tax incentives that are available to you that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah. So other industries like the manufacturing industry, retail industries, they've been putting in, billions of dollars lobbying for federal and state tax incentive programs. And a lot of these can be used for crypto miners as well because you invest so much into infrastructure. But some states have made it clear that, hey, these laws for manufacturing don't apply to crypto mining specifically. But if they haven't, then you can.
Elijah, if you wanted to touch on that, I don't know if you wanted to speak.
I'm actually really learning a lot actually and put into scope for Florida. Like you said,
same.
The biggest factor is the price of energy, and so we don't really have much control over that here in Florida. And so we've been looking at the different regulatory incentives that we could kind of play with or relax. We're actually in lobbying efforts right now with the state CFO to relax some rules around our fintech sandbox, right? And I know that directly go into mining, but things like our special economic opportunity zones have been places where miners have looked to actually do like a real estate play, right? So find some other investors, 1031 tax exchange into economic zone, try to shield some of their tax bases, but then double down on their discounts or incentives by purchasing mining equipment, purchasing the high tech the mining servers and writing that off as infrastructure for this particular area. I've personally been involved in some deals like that back in 2018, 2019. But as far as being able to have the breadth of different incentives as other states, we don't quite enjoy that yet. But I'm definitely learning a lot to learn for the future.
All right, thank you so much. So we have about close to over 5 minutes. So before I wrap up, I would like to invite our panelists to share any closing thoughts or statements on the topic that we are on. Is there anything that you would like to add or any key takeaways that you would like to leave with our audience today? That could be to anyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The one thing that I want to make sure that everybody realizes, there are federal tax incentives, state as well, that are already out there and available to every one of you miners that I've realized that most of you are not aware about. So you have the tools and you have the information to leave here today to apply it, to get you some additional funds, to clear up some cash, buy some more mining sites, hire more people, do whatever it takes. But hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit more information to give you more money in your pocket, reduce your taxes, and give you the tools to leave today to know what to do. And if you don't have those answers, come to me and I'll help you get them.
Thank you.
I would add that it's really important when you're deciding which state to go into to look at whether they're crypto mining friendly. Also, based on what Christine said, it's more advantageous to miners to have a deregulated grid because you can take advantage of the price changes. What you should also be looking for is the state looking towards the future, right? Are they thinking about how is the public going to react? Are they looking to make rules about incentivizing not only for crypto miners to come in now, but for them to be more to be using renewable sources, because that's where everyone is going. And if the state's not looking to do that, or it's not, it's not pushing you to use renewable energy sources, they're not thinking ahead. And that's not really a state that I think anybody would want to be in, because they can shut you down because of a public outcry really quickly. And that's not where you want to be. And also, like Angela said, don't leave money on the table. Thank you.
Dovetailing off that, I guess my word to people would be to encourage you to get involved in your state, because with Bitcoin, crypto mining, it's 50-50, right? The federal government is going to dictate, a lot of the tax stuff, how Bitcoin is viewed as a commodity versus a security. But at the state level, there's the money transmitter license, there's the regulation with mining. Currently, we're working on several bills in Texas. One of them will clarify that severance tax is not due if you're using the stranded gas that you can't sell anywhere else. If you're going to use that for Bitcoin mining, we're clarifying that should not be taxed with severance tax. We're also working on incentivizing participation in demand response. We also put forth a clarification that Texans have a right to hold their cryptographic keys anonymously. So things like that, I just encourage you, get involved in your state level, because there's a lot to be done and a lot of headway that can be made by your involvement.
Go Texas.
Thank you.
Go Texas.
Yeah, I would definitely say that is to get involved. Right now, it's I've been in crypto since for over a decade, and it's always still early, and especially for mining. So a lot of these questions, a lot of the different conundrums that we're facing, they're not even fully realized by us, by the people who've been in this industry. So when we start talking about regulation or talking about the taxes, how they come down, it's really up to us to be a proactive partner to government, to provide inspiration, awareness, education on the nuances of how the prevailing sentiments affect our community. I know that a lot of times we assume that people are more knowledgeable than they are. And some people who make the decisions just don't know. They've never mined, they've never even tried to deal with it. But they see that something that takes energy, and then there might be an interest group that gets in and tell them one way, oh, it's bad for the earth or something, or whatever someone's interest is. But if you're in it, then you understand that we know the real conditions. And so being proactive is definitely crucial, because we're truly peering over the precipice of a paradigm, preparing to pioneer a new path, realizing that the physical world can only be accepted as first, and that our digital reality can no longer be denied at last. These tectonic transitions caused by technology's position, they have the prodigious potential to transform every tier in class. So we've been entrusted this vision so that with prudent decision, we all could be multiplied by this immutable math. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And for our panelists, that is about time. So yeah, give it up for our panelists.